And we're going.
We're going?
Yeah.
You decided that you were water gun Kelly today?
Yeah.
Is is that what I'm to understand from this?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
You can't wear the shirt in public very often.
that's fair.
So when I don't do anything, it's really comfy.
It looks comfy. It it's I'm sure you probably make much better music than he's made the last.
No, don't say that. He'll write a diss track about me next.
Dude, then you'll be famous. There's only pros to that.
Keep talking
Plus it
about it.
plus it probably won't be that good if we've learned anything from diss
Yeah.
tracks.
And I think if anything, I know enough about him to do something.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, stay hydrated, folks. This episode is not sponsored by Fanta, but we're going to drink it anyways. Rather, half of us will. So, in other words, in to continue, we 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 I think we've got a pretty short, relatively episode today. There's not a whole lot that's gone on for movies that we haven't talked about. There was absolutely no music that was worth talking about this week. Though we have both seen Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. We'll chat about that in a little bit. Um, and speaking of Spider-Man, the only real news as far as movies go that I've heard recently is Spider-Man related, and that is that the producer of of this last Spider-Man movie, I think she's produced a couple of the other ones, but she announced that um, a Miles Morales live action movie and a Spider-Woman Gwen Stacy live action movie are in the works.
Yeah, I think that'll be good for, I mean, both Sony and for Marvel. I feel like bringing Miles Morales in has always been like a fan favorite character, especially in recent years.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like a lot of that has to do with Donald Glover. Just, I mean, all the way back to Community and his like love for Spider-Man and that. Um, I feel like he kind of got the ball rolling with Miles Morales, and then when obviously these animated movies came out, they did phenomenal, and people just fell in love with the characters more, with the animation styles. Um, and so bringing a live action Miles Morales, one could only speculate that we would see him in the MCU, especially with Sony and Marvel still in association with each other. They still work with each
Right.
other. Um, and then do we know if is it just an animated series for Spider Gwen?
I think it was live action, is what she said.
Oh,
She said live action for both.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like Spider Gwen's character in both these movies were really good too. So to see more Spider people come up and get their own live action, I think that's cool. It's something not totally new, but it's new for live action.
Right. And I think especially with this last movie, which we'll talk about in a little bit, it's made so many people want to see this style of movie or these characters brought to the big screen. I think that was something fell in my apartment. So I if we mysteriously disappear, there's some sort of paranormal event occurring during the recording of this podcast. Um anyways, I think a lot of people have started wanting to see these characters brought to the live action screen,
Yeah.
including like Spider-Man 2099 and Spider-Punk and some of these other characters that we just got to know a lot better in this last film. But the only casting rumors that I've heard about either of these characters is I think it's a lot of like just speculation, like, oh, they should get
Right.
so and so to play it. The only ones I've heard is that they are a lot of people are interested in the idea of Jaden Smith playing Miles Morales,
No.
which we've talked about a little bit, but I don't know how I feel about that. And the other rumor is people have asked Haley Steinfeld, who voices Spider Gwen in the animated series, if she would want to. And she basically said it feels nearly impossible with her playing Kate Bishop in the Hawkeye series and being the animated voice. She's like, she didn't say that she wouldn't do it, but she
Right.
was just like, I don't think it's feasible for that to happen. So
I actually heard in like some recent interview, she said if she could, it would be the easiest yes of her career.
yeah, I'm sure. I mean, and just from the interviews I've seen and from her performance, I think she really likes the character and is really vibes with it.
Right.
And she does a really good job in the vocal acting for it. And
Absolutely.
she's a relatively talented actress. I feel like she's gotten more and more onto the scene lately. But
Right. And I mean, we have a bunch of different universes. Who's to say?
yeah, I think that is how she prefaced the answer to that question. She's like, it's the MCU, so nothing's impossible,
Right.
but I don't see it happening. So, I mean, do you have any picks of people you would want to see play these characters in live action?
I would have to. If I knew I was gonna get asked this question, I probably would have done
Dude, I just came up
some
with it
sort of.
just barely because I can't think of any people off the top of
Yeah,
my
no.
head. All I
Off
can
the
think
top
of
of
is
my
that I
head,
don't want Jaden
that's
Smith to
yeah,
play
agreed. I
Miles
wouldn't mind
Morales.
Haley Steinfeld. Like, I wouldn't mind that at all.
Yeah,
Um, I just don't want Jaden. Nothing against him. Like, I don't have a problem with Jaden.
right.
Just there's so many people out there, so you have so much opportunity. Why
Hmm.
just settle with people that we're already familiar with? Why not get new
Right.
faces in? Like, help these other talented actors and actresses out by like giving them a shot. Like, so I just don't want them to settle. And that's not even saying that they're considering that. That, like you said, it's speculation and like who they want to see it happen. But I don't want them to just settle with familiar faces.
Right, for sure. I think the one that immediately comes to my mind, and I think I've seen like a lot of fan art about this and like just like how it would look in the movie. And I really am a big Emma Stone fan, and I think she played Gwen Stacy really well.
Yeah.
And if you're gonna do it from a multiverse standpoint, I don't know why that wouldn't be a big consideration because I think
Right.
she could pull off an action role. I don't know that I've ever really seen her herself be an action character, but I think she could do it.
Right.
And I really liked her portrayal of Gwen Stacy. So I think she'd be good. When we were kind of speculating about Marvel movies in the future, one of the actors that I said would be interesting for me to see as Miles Morales is Michael Belling, who is the quarterback on the TV show All American. Um, he's kind of a younger guy. I think he has a lot of potential to kind of play that young, witty character pretty well.
Yeah.
Or like if we are just going with familiar people, like Shamik Moore, the guy that voices Miles Morales,
Yeah.
is like he looks a little older, but he's got like for sure the temperament at least to play him. So
Right. So somebody that now just kind of popped into my head. If you've seen Stranger Things, Caleb McLaughlin, I feel like he's the right age. And you only see him in, or I've only seen him in Stranger Things. I don't know if he had any other role,
I'm sure he
but
does.
but I don't know. I feel like he has the look. I feel like he is still that kid. So to put him in Miles Morales role, I don't see as far fetched.
Right. Yeah, that's not a bad fit at all. I think there's a lot of actors like that too that are kind of jumping out onto the scene from roles in big TV shows like
Yeah.
that. I mean, you've got Outer Banks with all of its popularity. There's a lot of um actors and actresses that are kind of coming out of the woodwork from a lot of other really big roles that I feel like have a lot of potential to play
Right.
that kind of thing. However, I don't know that there's a bunch of big names of like staple actors that
Right.
we know are super talented across a ton of movies just because the temperament that's required to play a young Spider-Man character requires you to be young enough that you may not have all that acting experience under your belt.
Right.
And I mean, it kind of comes with some risk, but then you get guys like Tom Holland who perform really well in it. You get guys like, I mean, Toby and Andrew kind of had a little bit more of some acting
Right.
experience and some notoriety before that, but even they got much bigger from those roles and
Oh yeah.
like people had their doubts when they cast them. So I think there's a ton of, you know, leeway with actors that you could bring into potentially be in that role.
Mhm.
but I would definitely have to look more into other actors
Yeah.
and their performances in the past to feel super confident about picking a
Right.
Miles Morales right now.
Yeah. But it's fun to kind of think about, especially because there's only speculation and it's only from fans. It
Right.
kind of gives us that freedom to put our own input and put our own ideas out in there. So
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I don't know that there's any other movie news that I've heard, like at least worth covering.
yeah, no, I mean, now that we've both seen Spider-Man, and I mean, I knew this beforehand too, but they announced Beyond the Spider-Verse
Right.
to release
Mhm.
early next year in March. I think I saw March 29th. So there's that, and then I guess some more Spider-Man news. Um I was talking to you about this and I told Jonah about this, but Nicolas Cage is um a front runner for a, I want to say it was live action, but a live action Spider-Man noir show or whatever it
Yeah.
may be, some kind of cinema. So
Yeah, and I mean he kills the like again the vocal temperament of
right.
him in the first movie there, but
Right.
I I mean I'd be interested to see how it turned out. It's hard to reboot a character,
Mhm.
and I think it would be even harder to bring a character that's so well known like Spider-Man and then portray other universal versions
Yeah.
of that character, because there's I mean especially for like the casual fan who may not be a super big comic book fan, to see a familiar character in unfamiliar ways
Right.
may be interesting for them. I don't know that it necessarily would make it bad, but if you're expecting one thing and you go in not really understanding who
Right.
it is, I think it would do really, really well for diehard fans, but I
Absolutely.
don't know how much like the casual fan would want to see. I think a lot of people want to see Miles Morales, but
Absolutely.
even with Spider Woman, like I don't know if she's getting more well known, but I don't know
Mhm.
if she's well known enough where people would be like, "Oh, I'm dying to see that." And I feel like that Nicolas Cage Spider Man may kind of fill that same
Yeah.
gap where it's like the diehards would love it, and then some people may not really know what to expect going into it.
Right. And I mean, that is, in my opinion, kind of dangerous territory,
Mm-hmm.
especially because of how good Into the Spider Verse and Across the Spider Verse, how much success they both have. Because I feel like once you keep getting success and more of it, and you start progressing and taking steps forward, that's where you kind of start to slip up. And you're right, diehards would love it, but it, how many Spider-Mans do we actually need in live action? How many of those characters are people then going to ask, oh, why isn't he doing crossovers with the X-Men and
Yeah,
whatever it may be?
for sure.
So I think certain characters, I think it'd be cool nonetheless, but I think if you wanted to go about any of it, I feel like TV shows are the way to do so. Even if you wanted to do live action,
Mm-hmm.
um, just to kind of make it a little bit simpler, because you're not going to get that in the movie theaters. You're not going to go buy a
Right.
ticket to go watch that. You're going to watch it on Disney Plus. So yeah, I just hope they don't overdo it.
Yeah. Yeah. It kind of does feel like dangerous territory, especially with all of everything that they're putting out right now.
Right.
Just every superhero company is wanting to capitalize on the big market. And so it is dangerous territory for sure. And I guess speaking of that, this isn't really news. It's been out for a while, but the new Secret Invasion
Hmm.
show with Nick Fury, played by Samuel L. Jackson, is coming out pretty soon.
Yeah,
I think it's within the next couple weeks.
something like that. I think
Um,
sometime in July
I think it's late June,
or
maybe early
yeah,
July,
I
something
was
like
about to say
that.
yeah.
But we've kind of talked about this on the Pop Culture Roundup podcast, but it's a very big comic book storyline that a lot of people love.
Yeah.
And the way they're portraying it kind of in terms of being a more espionage based TV show as opposed to like an Avengers threat
Right.
makes for an interesting show. And it doesn't feel like it's going to be necessarily the same vibe as what Marvel's put out before,
Mhm.
because it feels very spy oriented and government agency oriented as opposed to like superhero
Yeah.
stuff. So, I mean, what do you think about that show? Are you excited for it? We'll probably do some reviews weekly when episodes come out and
Yeah,
stuff as it's coming
I
out.
mean
But
that helps us. When they first announced all of the new projects, Secret Invasion being one of them, I I didn't know that it was a TV show
mm,
because I get Secret Invasion and Secret Wars mixed up sometimes.
right, there's too many
So
secrets.
right, like stop.
Just
What's what's with all
be
the
open.
secrecy? Right.
Secrets are no fun. Anyways,
So me and Jonah started talking about it like a little bit afterwards, and I think I mentioned like, oh, I can't wait to see Secret Invasion. He goes, oh yeah, you know it's a TV show, right? And all of the joy was just sucked out of me,
just left you.
gone.
Yeah.
I was sad. Just that is it.
Mm-hmm.
Disappointed and sad. Not angry, just disappointed.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure I put it on my like Snapchat story, like, Marvel, you made me really sad today. And that was it. Like no context or nothing.
The angst.
Yeah.
Scarlet Spider energy.
Literally. um it just it makes me sad because it's such a great comic line.
Oh yeah.
And then I don't know if you remember this animated show. It was called Avengers Assembled.
Yeah.
That's my favorite animated like Avengers show. Everybody says like Spectacular Spider-Man or this or whatever, like the old X-Men. Mine was Avengers Assembled. I loved that show a lot. And it ended, which upset me in the first place, but it ended on that storyline where the Skrulls were coming in and like they're having this meeting and Black Panther's like, I can't trust any of y'all. Like, we can't be the Avengers if we can't trust anyone because nobody knows who is who, and there's no way for us to find out. And then the show just ended, and it pissed me off. It made me really sad. But that's the kind of feel that I wanted, and I was looking forward into that show. Well, I guess I wanted it to be movie, but
yeah,
after it like marinating, I guess, for a little bit, like it's whatever. I think it's cool that they are taking more of a spy approach. I saw like I think a teaser or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it looked good. I think one of the lines in the little trailer thing I saw was Rhodey saying like, Nick Fury, like, you're the most wanted man on the planet. So that's crazy. So I don't know. I'm interested to see if it'll be good because it is such a big event. How are a couple spies and government agents
gonna handle it?
Exactly. Because
yeah,
the only superhero you'll probably have, if any, is gonna be Captain Marvel because she's
had experience there.
So, I mean, unless you want to count Rhodey,
you don't think he's a superhero?
Trash. He stole a suit and claimed he's a superhero.
I mean, he did kick Iron Man's trash to take it, but
well, let's be fair, he was drunk. He beat a drunk man, stole his stuff, and then started claiming he was a superhero.
In the wise words of Tony Stark, if you're nothing without the suit, then you shouldn't have it. So maybe Tony's content of his character there made him not quite the superhero he should be.
Maybe that's why he said it to Peter.
He learned. Yeah, real dad energy right there. But yeah, I feel like I'm with you that I was really looking forward to kind of this big movie. And then when I found out it was a show, I was like, okay, maybe they'll do something kind of like a 3-parter kind of deal. And it'll be a similar vibe, just on a lower budget scale, maybe. And then when I kind of found out that it was more spy based and government based and all that, I was definitely a little perturbed by it, just like wondering what they were going to do and not as excited for it for sure. But I feel like seeing the promos for it and kind of having it resonate for a while has made me get back up to being really excited for it, to the point where, I mean, like, I was super excited to see Hawkeye, and I can't think of all the other shows that came out recently, but like, I think Hawkeye was probably one that I was super excited to see as opposed to the others, just because he's been a big deal for a long time and hasn't really got much spotlight. And this is probably the most excited I've been for a Marvel TV show in a while.
Yeah.
So and and I really hope they do a really good job, because I do like spy movies and spy shows and kind of that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And so I feel like if you do it really well, it could be really interesting in a different way.
Yeah.
And plus, knowing Marvel, there's always room for that, big plot twist where other people show up. And I'm sure we'll have other people show up. But like you
Right.
said, is it going to just be limited to governmental type Avengers /
Right.
maybe just Captain Marvel? I don't know. Is there the possibility that someone super cool would show up and play a role in it?
Right.
Absolutely. But
Because I could see like the only other two that I really could see show up potentially are either Captain America, the Falcon,
yeah,
or Bucky.
yeah,
Those are the only two, because yes, they're superheroes, but they're also more so on that government side.
right.
So those are the only other two that I really see fitting this kind of plot line that they're
Yeah,
going
yeah,
with.
definitely. So I am excited for it, but it's for sure a different excitement than what it started out to be.
Absolutely. Right.
But it's got potential, and to be honest, it's a much safer shot to take than another massive superhero show, because while you can definitely miss and make a crappy spy show,
Mhm.
I think it's much easier to make a very crappy superhero show than it is to make a very crappy spy show,
Right.
because the plot line, the premise is already interesting when you're
Yeah.
talking about spies and secrecy and invasion and all of that kind of
Right.
stuff. So it makes it harder to mess up. And so that gives me a little more confidence in it, I
Right.
guess.
I
But
just wish I think Marvel went about it all wrong. And we kind of talked about this when we were on the pop culture roundup doing the rewrite for Marvel, like
mhm,
after Endgame, where do you see?
yeah.
I think, and I still stand by, I think they pushed Kang way too early. I think this would be, and I think it was Jonah that said it. It might have been you, but brought up the scroll invasion.
Yeah.
And I do agree with that. I think Secret Invasion would have been the best next movie, especially because we see things like Civil War already. So
Yeah.
and then even in Endgame, like the tension between Tony and Steve
It's
when they
still there.
first met up again, yeah, it's huge. You can
Yeah.
feel it. And so going into Secret Invasion, I feel like would have been a great moment to like knock everything out and start regaining trust,
Mm,
because like
yeah.
it could be a storyline where they see all the things that have happened, they've experienced what no trust does,
Right.
all of that, and then go however else you want to go. But I just feel like there was so much potential that was wasted just on the fact that it got turned into a TV show. But I do agree that if it is more spy based, it's a lot less likely to be bad.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we'll see how it turns out.
Right.
And like we said, are they, do you know if they're doing it weekly episode
They
releases, or
should.
is it going to come out all at once? I would imagine it's
I'm pretty sure
weekly.
it's weekly.
Okay.
In the past, I think they started doing it on Thursdays and it got switched to every Wednesday. So I don't know when exactly they'll come
Yeah.
out, but I would assume they keep it every Wednesday and it'll be that weekly thing.
For sure. So I mean, we'll definitely talk about those episodes briefly as they come out,
Right.
and see what we end up thinking about them. In terms of music news, also, like, there hasn't been a whole lot of new developments. There is some development as far as Travis Scott's Utopia album, but it's just been a ton of teaser stuff for it.
Yeah.
Like, there's not really any concrete stuff. Like, there's been a release date floated out by his label for June 23rd.
Okay.
There's been some track leaks, quote unquote, online that people are like, these are probably just throwaways. Like, this is his voice from 2016.
Yeah.
This isn't actually going to be on the album. And then there's been collaborations teased with Bad Bunny and The Weeknd, both massive artists today. And Travis is known for kind of keeping some good company on his albums while also keeping them very under wraps, to the point where, like, nobody even knew Drake was on Astro World until the intro to Sicko Mode. And then everyone lost their minds for like 6 weeks after that. So, I mean, I do think this buildup is odd because it's like there's no procession for it, like no concrete procession when they've said like June, it's coming out soon. And then Travis is like, I'm going to release it after Sofago and Don Toliver release their EPs.
Right.
And like that hasn't happened yet. And then his label is like June 23rd. And then Mike Dean, his producer, tweets and is like, let us cook. We'll get the album done when we get it done. And it's like, you're not even done with this thing and you're already hyping it up. So I really have no idea when this album is going to come out or how good it's even going to be because of all of the mystery. And then on top of that, I don't know if you've seen like Travis has been traveling with bodyguards to different festivals and stuff with the briefcase labeled Utopia handcuffed to him. Yeah. And then like The Weeknd had a briefcase with him at some film festival that he was at recently, like again, teasing that he's on the album.
Yeah.
And then Mike Dean, again, his producer, Instagrammed a photo with the briefcase open. So everyone's like, they're opening it, it's coming out. But then he like, again, is tweeting, wait for us to be done. Don't overhype it. Like, so I have no idea what the heck he's doing, but maybe that's part of it.
That's kind of funny.
I don't know. Maybe that's their plan to just get everybody confused and then kind of drop it out of nowhere. Yeah. But then like at that point, why not just make it a surprise album?
Right. Like, yeah. Why put so much effort in hiding it just to
not hide it at the same time?
Yeah. There's no point in that. That's kind of funny though. I saw the briefcase thing. I found that hilarious.
Yeah.
Like, you're so extra for that. But
first of all, what like everything you do musically is digital now. So like what the heck are they carrying around in that briefcase? Like the flash drive that it's recorded on? Yeah. Do people even use that anymore? It's probably in the cloud. Like what the heck is even like the lyrics to the song? What do you carry in the Utopia briefcase?
It could be a laptop. I don't know how big the briefcase is.
It could be a laptop, I guess.
With all of the files.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Seems like a weird place to carry a laptop, but then again, it seems weird to carry a handcuff.
And literally just clickbait.
It probably is. That's my assumption. I think it's the representation of the album as opposed to like anything you're actually carrying in it. But
I just think it's extra, and as an extra person myself, I salute.
Okay.
That's beautiful. That's hilarious.
Yeah. I mean, again, we've talked a while about it a couple episodes ago that I think we're both interested to hear what he comes up with, but it has been kind of an odd rollout and it continues to be odd. Right. And I don't know where it's going.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm still in the same thing. I'm just interested. Nothing is. I mean, we haven't gotten anything, so
yeah, it hasn't changed really much perception for either of us. I don't think. I think we're still in the same place, just with more uncertainty of like what's actually going on. So,
that's about it.
Yeah, and then other music stuff going on, like we kind of mentioned, there was no albums that I was really excited to hear that came out this week.
Yeah.
And the singles that came out, it was hard to find artists that I was interested in listening to. There was a handful that I was interested to hear what they came out with.
Yeah.
And how many did you find, or did you find any good songs that you were interested in?
So I found 2 that I downloaded.
Okay.
I think I listened to 11 songs that caught my eye and only downloaded the 2. Those being another one from, and I just found this out. So 30 Seconds to Mars is releasing an album.
Yeah.
So they just dropped the second song on the album this week. And that's the one I sent to you.
Yeah.
I think it's really good. It sounds like something Imagine Dragons would experiment with. It also sounds like a high point to some sort of action movie, or like a superhero film, like whatever it may be. I liked it. I liked it a lot. The production was beautiful. I think that's what actually caught my ear, was solely production. I tried to look at the lyrics, but the lyrics aren't out yet. So
okay.
I know he says something about like it's a beautiful, or life is beautiful, something like that.
Sure.
But that's really all I could understand.
But it's worth a listen.
Yeah, it's hype.
Okay,
like, it's cool. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, I've never been a big 30 Seconds to Mars guy. Like,
yeah,
I for sure know their notoriety and see the appeal, but like I've never gotten into a ton of their music. But it sounds like it's definitely worth checking out and hopefully
Yeah.
the album follows it up pretty well.
I feel like I've heard like one or two of their songs like way back when.
Yeah.
Um, but with the two songs that they dropped, because I downloaded the first one too. I thought the first one was really good. So I'm kind of excited to hear when they actually drop. I don't know when the release date is. I feel like I could look at it, but whatever. Um, it seems so far so good.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to listen. So there's that. The
Cool.
only other one that I listened to was this West Coast Weekend with Tyga, YG, and is that what? How do you say that? Blast?
Blast. Yeah.
Okay, okay. um,
Stop using X for a vowel,
You're not
people.
cool.
It's not how English works.
At Blast at Jaden. I don't know who else has done it.
I'm sure there's plenty.
Yeah, it's like when everybody started being Lil,
Yeah.
it's now the X vowel. That's stupid.
Yeah.
But this song is terrible
You don't like
in
it?
the message.
Sure.
It's a terrible message.
Yeah.
But it's such a good song.
It's a vibe.
It is a straight vibe.
It's nothing short of what I expect from Tyga, though I feel like Blast definitely carried the track.
Yeah.
But it feels like every Tyga song that's come out for like the last 10 years.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, it was a vibe.
Yeah.
And that was the first song I listened to because I listened to all of them driving up here. And I was vibing. Oh, it made me so happy to listen to that song.
Yeah.
Just solely production. I don't
Sure.
really care for the message, but the production's amazing.
Yeah.
Their vocals are really good too. There's another Blast song I listened to on the way here. I think it's called 21 Questions.
Yeah.
It's not bad, but I like this guy. I haven't heard of him until recently.
Yeah.
I don't know if he is a recent artist or if he's just.
I think he got big like right at the end of 21. So
Okay.
he's just kind of getting a lot bigger
Okay.
over the last year, especially with popping up on Mr. Morale.
Right. I love his vocals. I think he has a cool style, a cool voice. I wasn't a huge fan of 21 Questions, but even then it wasn't terrible. I think he has a lot of room to grow, but then again, I probably heard like 3 of his songs.
Sure.
So to say that is not fair, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't actually know his catalog or anything like that, but yeah. So I like him a lot.
Yeah.
So he's cool.
Yeah. I thought it was, like I said, nothing overtly special as opposed to what I feel like I expect from all of those artists. But it was a vibe. And I mean, they're just trying to put out a summer beach pool anthem. And I think they accomplished it.
Yeah.
So it's for sure worth a listen, especially if that's your vibe, just chilling on summer vacation or whatever you're doing, you know?
Yeah.
I think the best song that I heard this week, and I was very surprised by it, was the song Lilith, which is the Diablo 4 game with lead single.
Halsey and the dude from
BTS. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I listened to it and I felt like it was really what I was hoping Halsey would do with her last album, which I didn't really like. And Suga from BTS, the guy who's on it, I don't know if that's how you say it.
That's the reason why I didn't say it, and I just said the dude
from
you finish
BTS.
I just didn't want to.
Yeah.
I don't know how to pronounce it either.
So I feel like I'm not the biggest K-pop dude, but I thought they both sounded really good on this song, and the production was very chill. It sounded really cool. I haven't played the Diablo games. I don't know if you have.
I almost did, but then my dad's ex-girlfriend hid the game even though it was mine and didn't give it back.
Well, almost only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. So
no.
So no, you haven't. But I don't really know the tone, but based on the title Diablo 4, I think it's going to fit it pretty well.
Yeah.
Vocally, it's like nothing outrageously special, but their vocals sound really good on it.
Yeah.
I didn't really like focus in a whole lot on the lyrics as opposed to the aesthetic and the sound of it.
Right.
And I think sonically it's a really, really cool song.
Yeah. That was one that caught my ear and I was close to downloading it, but there was a part where it kind of had a build up to where there could have been a beat drop. Not saying you had to go crazy or anything, but like it is a very aesthetic pleasing song. So I feel like they could have added a couple more instruments to end out the song, and I think that would have been dope.
Mm.
That was my only, but that once again, that's just a personal preference.
Sure.
That would have made it better for me. Other than that, it's a great song. I agree. I think Halsey killed it. Um, I didn't really like her last album. I'm not huge on Halsey. I think she's a great artist and I have a lot of respect, just not my type of music.
Right.
So I was pleased to hear this song. And it's a cool little collab. I
Yeah.
like it's not two people I could probably would have ever thought to put together. So to hear them kind of compliment each other sounded really cool.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like you had a kind of random, well, not random, but an odd relationship with Halsey's music because when I moved back from Boston, you were like, dude, check out this album, Manic. It's really cool. You sent me a bunch of songs, and I was like, oh, yeah, there's some vibes on here. Like, it's some cool stuff. And then, like, a year later, I was like, dude, I still like this song a lot from this Halsey album. And you're like, dude, that album's trash. It sucks. I was like, you switched up not quick, but between two conversations, you switched up. so, I mean, I don't know. Were you lying the first time, or did it actually just did you evolve as a music listener to not like that?
I think I evolved.
Okay.
No, so I used to do this with quite a few albums. I would listen through and think I loved all of it, and I would download so much of it instead of really trying to find songs I truly liked and could see myself listening to a while. So after like maybe a month of just having it on my phone and seeing it pop up and be like, oh my gosh, Skip, like shut up. Yeah, so I bet if I listened to it again, I would re-find a couple songs, but I would be a lot more picky about what I chose.
That's understandable.
I love her voice though. She has a beautiful voice.
Yeah.
That's so funny. I don't even remember sending that.
Yeah, it was like right when I moved back too. I was like, yo, send me some of the music you're listening to, and you send over that like half of the Halsey album, which makes a lot of sense because I listened through and I was like, okay, there's some really good stuff on here, but like
not
half of these are not very good.
Yeah. So I think after, because there were a couple good songs that I really did like, but after even just, it didn't even have to play. I would just see the cover art come on, pause it, and at some point I was just like, I'm just gonna delete everything I have of this album. So I did.
Here you go, man.
Sorry, Halsey.
No, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. But we support you now, Halsey. Absolutely. If you listen to our podcast. Yeah. Did you listen to any other songs that you liked or disliked?
Oh my gosh, Sam Smith and Madonna, y'all are stupid. Y'all are trash. I hate you both right now. Y'all are getting the Taylor Swift and Ice Spice treatment. That song was vulgar and I hated it. It was garbage. Ew. That's it.
It seems an odd pairing.
I feel like there's been so many random pairings in the last like month.
Yeah. And
why is Madonna popping up all of a sudden? Because last week she just had one with The Weeknd and Playboy Cardi.
Yeah.
And now she got one with Sam Smith.
I don't know. I mean, I've seen her release music over the years, but I don't know why the last couple weeks she's been on like the 2 cover tracks for New Music Daily every week. I don't know why that's happened. And even Sam Smith, like he's a vocalist that I have a lot of respect for his talent.
Yeah.
But his recent stuff I haven't loved a whole lot of, even his big TikTok song that's everywhere right now. But like I liked a lot of his older stuff.
Yeah,
he did a great track on one of the James Bond soundtracks that was super good.
Right.
And even his early albums were really good. I just haven't loved a lot of his recent style.
Yeah.
But
I
didn't even listen to that one because of that reason.
Don't listen to it.
Okay.
It's stupid.
Yeah.
It's really bad. I don't like Sam Smith anymore. If he keeps going this route.
Yeah.
I think Hollywood has officially really gotten to him. I don't like any of the new music he's putting out. But I agree. I have a lot of respect for him when it comes to his older stuff. I do think he has an amazing voice.
Yeah.
Um, but all of the all of the new stuff he's been putting out, and it's just my opinion, is trash. Respectfully.
Yeah, I listened to it like I said, I've heard that I don't even know what it's called. The new song that
No,
he's has on TikTok everywhere. I've heard it a million times.
right.
I don't think it's very good. I listened to a couple of other tracks on his most recent album and didn't think it was very good, so I didn't finish it. And I I don't know if he's trying to become a people pleaser and put
Right.
out what he thinks is going to sell, or like you said, if it's people in his ear telling him what he should put out. But it's definitely different than what he I feel like is his wheelhouse and what he does very well.
Right.
um but anyways, one can hope that he'll bounce back.
Right. Like I still listen to like Stay With Me and I'm Not the Only One quite
Yeah,
frequently. Not even gonna lie. Like driving down to Vegas, those both of those songs will probably play on accident, but for some reason they play
they
and
just
I
happen.
I don't skip them. Great
Yeah,
songs, but yeah, I don't. That song sucked. Really, really bad.
good to know.
Yeah.
One that I thought kind of sucked was this Jay Huss track, Who Told You, featuring
Oh,
Drake.
yeah. That was the one I was listening to coming inside,
Yeah.
and I was like, man, this new music sucks.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
feel like Drake does this every once in a while where he tries to put out kind of an island-ish vibe song.
Right.
And what it really comes across to me as is just that he's trying to recreate One Dance, which is a song that I really like. I think it's one of his better pop vocal tracks, but um but it just didn't sound very good. I don't
Yeah.
know. I've never listened to another J Huss song, so I
I
don't know if this is
yeah.
what he normally puts out.
I
But
listened to it because it said featuring Drake.
yeah, and it was like one of the top listed
Yeah.
new songs. So
Yeah.
yeah, that one wasn't very good.
Production was all right.
Yeah, it
I was good.
sounded okay. Like again, if it's all you really care about is background music for an
Right.
island
Yeah.
vibe song, then it's fine. There's nothing outrageously bad about it, but it's
Right.
just was much worse than good pop island tracks that I've heard
Right.
from Drake and even other artists. So
Yeah. One that I didn't finish listening to just because I didn't know what the heck was going on. I don't remember what it's called. It's called Hillbilly Something with Baby Keem and Kendrick.
oh yeah. Yeah. You mentioned that when you walked in.
Yeah, why is Kendrick trying to be all Southern all of a sudden? What, like, I don't get it.
Yeah, I wonder if it has the potential to grow on anybody that listens to it. I don't know how many people vibed with that when he
Right,
kind of came in with that accent. Though I will just not that it's going to be related, but when J. Cole did London
right.
with BIA, I don't know how to say your name. Um whoever he did that song with.
I don't know the
Um
song.
I first heard it and I was like, why the heck is he rapping in a British accent? It's weird, but it grew on me a lot. So I don't know if this has the potential to do that. I kind of mentioned I think it's much better than what they put out together on Baby Keem's album, though I don't know that that says a whole lot to me.
Right.
Though it is better, I didn't download it because I don't know
Yeah.
how often I listen to it, but I didn't find myself hating it.
I don't hate it either. It's just I expect so much more from Kendrick.
Mm,
I expect what I expect from Kendrick what J. Cole has been doing, whether it's a feature, a single of his, or an album. I expect it to almost always be something for me that I would download
mm,
because he can do that. We've seen him do it
sure.
multiple times throughout multiple albums. So what happened? In my opinion, that's what I'm asking. Like,
Yeah.
did did something happen? Is he kind of doing this new experimental thing? Is he trying things out? Is he whatever it may be? Because you look at J. Cole and I feel like he's only been growing and getting better. And that's saying a lot because he's had features like no other in the last year and a half,
Sure.
2 years. And they're all just as good as the next, or if not better, with a
Right.
bunch of random people. There was that one song. I think it's on 2K now, but um, what is that song? Um, didn't walk up crates. I was too busy stacking cake.
Oh, Scared Money.
Yeah, that one. Yeah,
Yeah.
solid song. Only because of J. Cole. That song sucks actually. But so then I look at Kendrick now, and I listen to it because of Kendrick. I'm not huge on Baby Keem.
Mm.
And so when he's talking to me about all of this random nonsense at the beginning of the song, I'm just confused.
Right.
Like, why is he the Compton cowboy? I think that's what he said at the beginning.
Yeah, yeah. There's some odd stuff sonically, and I think we could realistically do an entire episode talking about Kendrick Lamar's latest evolution. And if
Yeah.
he puts out like an album or an EP or singles sometime soon, or even if we just don't have anything to talk about, maybe it'd be an interesting discussion because I think we could say a lot about the quality of his writing and his evolution as a person, which is still very, very clear
Right.
lyrically in his music. But I do agree with you that sonically it isn't quite as appealing to listen to as what he's put out in the past.
Right.
And again, like we could spend probably
We really
several hours talking about why that is, or if it's intentional, or if it's like a result of kind of a Kanye West like evolution to Jesus is King, where he was far more worried about what's going on in his life as opposed to
Right.
the sound of the music he's putting out. I don't really know, but I definitely think we could have a long conversation about it. But bottom line being, I agree with you. I don't think it
Yeah.
was Kendrick's best work, though I do think it was better than, for sure, better than I think Range Brothers and Family Ties were the two
Yeah.
songs that they had on his last album. I liked it better than those, but definitely not up to par sound wise from what I expect from
Right.
Kendrick.
Agreed.
Yeah. The other track that I gave a chance to that wasn't bad, but I don't think I would listen to it a whole lot is the song Pour Your Heart Out by DJ RL Grime. It features 070 Shake, who is a vocalist that I've come to enjoy her stuff a lot the last little while. I feel like there's a lot of good music that they've put out, but um, the song was really cool, but it was very EDM, and the EDM just felt unnecessary. I was like, I wish you would have just made this more of a pop song or more of an R&B song. It was good. Like there wasn't anything wrong with the EDM sound of it. It just wasn't something special or catchy that I'd find myself like wanting to listen to a whole lot.
Right.
Um, so there was that one. And then the last two tracks that I listened to were two country songs. Glory Days by Gabby Barrett and Take Me Out by Carrie
I
Underwood.
heard that one.
And the Gabby Barrett song, I feel like I still need to listen to because I don't know if I've made my mind up on it. It's definitely not as good as her best stuff that I've heard. Her last album, I think, was called Gold Mine, that came out last year. It was very good. I really liked it. It may have come out 2 years ago, actually. But I really liked it, and I think she's a very promising country star. But I still don't know how I feel about this song, and I've listened to it like 3 or 4 times, and that concerns me that I haven't made up my mind like, oh, it's a good song or it's a decent song, or just knowing that it's bad. So I don't know where I'm going to end up with that, but I don't think it was bad because I feel like I would have known that by now.
Right.
But this Take Me Out song by Carrie Underwood was pretty good. Like I thought it was not half bad. Carrie Underwood's an artist that I feel like, at least for me, is kind of the equivalent of what Eminem is in hip hop, to the point where, as kind of an outsider, so to speak, they came in and became one of the biggest stars in the genre. And now, because of that, every white rapper that comes into hip hop is immediately compared to Eminem, even if their sounds are nothing alike, even if their styles are nothing alike. They are immediately compared to him success wise. And for me, I feel like Carrie Underwood kind of is that for country music, to the point where like any female vocalist that comes in with big, powerful vocals kind of immediately gets compared to her because of
Right.
how much I liked a lot of her early stuff. And it's to the point where a track like this, which I didn't think was bad, I thought it was actually pretty good. I didn't find myself wanting to listen to a whole lot
Mhm.
just because I've heard such good things from her
Right.
that to the point where even this pretty good track was like felt forgettable compared to other stuff in her catalog.
Yeah. I not saying it's bad or anything, but I did skip that one just because I have some Carrie Underwood downloaded and they're great songs. Like all respect to Carrie, like great artist.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I agree. It was more one of the more forgettable ones to me. Um, Beautiful song. Like it's a good song.
Yeah.
Just I feel like it's hard when you become so big and you can't stay there for however long you decide to keep releasing music
Mm.
because you eventually fall down. Like even if it is from incredible to great,
Yeah. You've set the bar so high.
that you sound off.
Yeah.
Like you hear that in Eminem. Um, you heard that in Dre. You heard that from just about any
Yeah.
other
Chance the
artist. Chance.
Rapper.
I guess I'll include Kendrick for right now. But
Man, we make some popular fan bases angry here. Yeah, but I mean, it's no artist's immune to it. I think
yeah,
everybody does at some point. Even artists that have made great comebacks, like you said, I agree that J. Cole's put out some of my personal favorite music in his catalog recently.
yeah,
Um, but he went through some time where it was like what I heard on Forest Hills Drive or before that was much better than the stuff that he was putting out maybe post KOD
yeah.
era. And I even liked KOD and some of For Your Eyes Only, but like just as a whole, it wasn't as good as what I felt like he was putting
Right.
out before. And even he getting back to the point that he's at now, went through some of that. I don't think that there's a whole lot of artists that are immune to it. And I think it happens to everybody at some point. But like you said, it's just the nature of music and having such high success
Right.
so early. And like I said, I still will listen to a new Carrie Underwood
Yeah.
album and probably enjoy a good amount of it and have a great listening experience. How much of it I will end up downloading is another story
Right.
because while I'm a big fan of her, like we've said, I just think she's done such big things that the bar's so high that it's nearly impossible to meet that bar or exceed it.
Right.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, for me, that wraps up music. Did you have more music that you listened to or enjoyed or?
I finally listened to the Spider-Man
Oh,
album.
okay. That means we're here.
We're in it.
Oh my
So I
gosh.
guess we'll start with the soundtrack just to keep going with music.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So these are the ones that I downloaded. So remember how I said I didn't like that self-love song?
You like it now?
Dude, I actually love that song.
Really?
Yeah. Not for like lyrical or anything,
Mm-hmm.
but it happened when I watched the movie. Because that song comes on very, very early.
Yeah.
It's in the
Mm-hmm.
subway. And I think the movie made me appreciate it so much more just because like hearing Gwen's story and then hearing the
Yeah.
background, it's such a beautiful song, actually.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
That's
was
why and now that we can actually review this in the context of the movie,
yeah,
that was why I was so hesitant to be like, I really liked this song or this song
yeah,
because I was like, so much of the enjoyment that I now get out of this song comes from the context of the movie,
yeah,
as opposed to like if I were to just listen to it up front, I don't know how much I would have loved it.
right.
Whereas I think we both
Yeah,
listened to that song and we were like, it's okay,
yeah.
but like in the context of the movie, it comes across
So
so
good.
much better.
Yeah, I literally experienced that coming from man, I don't like this song to instant download. Oh, it's such a good song. Like I hear it in my head. Oh, so good. So I ended up downloading 6 off of the album.
Okay.
I liked Annihilate, Am I Dreaming, All the Way Live, Calling, Silk and Cologne was
It's an interesting vibe,
yeah, definitely.
but it's a
And
vibe.
yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I feel like Silk and Cologne isn't one I would normally download nor listen to,
Mm.
but it had its own thing going on. I don't know. It was very unique to me,
Right.
and I don't know. I ended up really enjoying it. And then obviously self love, but yeah, album solid. I get what you mean now when you say it has its ups and downs. Obviously you'll have that in just about any album,
Sure.
but it was enjoyable. I would probably give it like maybe a seven, like a 7.5 at
Hmm.
highest out of
Yeah.
10. Great production. I don't expect anything less from Metro.
Yeah.
I do know what you mean with the Lil Wayne features. It just didn't feel
Dude, can I
correct.
read some of these lyrics on this
Please.
podcast?
Yes.
Because let's listen to this Lil Wayne verse, and I'm not gonna do it any justice by just reading it up front, but this man says, Wheezy Carter, I'm about to go Peter Parker. I'm Spider-Man. If he ain't me, he's just a creepy crawler. Tunchi spark the lighter, pull up in a new Ferrari Spider. And then he says, she turned a Spider Woman if I bite her. I will not go back and forth with you. I see you got a Black Widow with you. You should have had a Black Hero with you. I give the op arachnophobia. Since I was an itsy bitsy spider, they've been trying to wash the spider out. I got spiders crawling out your mouth. Spider Verse. And I'm a fan of Lil Wayne's. Some of that is questionable, to say the least. And I skipped a couple lines just because I didn't feel like they were that bad or that pertinent to my point. But I don't know why that's the part that's going viral on social media right now. Because yeah, because it's like I really firmly believe it's one of the worst parts of the album.
That's hilarious.
The rest of the song's great though. Sway
It's
Lee
a great
sounds
song. Yeah, no,
fantastic.
that's a great song.
It's very catchy, but even his like lyrics aside, his flows weren't that good on the verse.
Yeah.
Um, the production sounded great
Yeah,
during his rap, but
absolutely.
that's more Metro than anything. But
Right. Yeah.
anyways,
That was hilarious.
yeah,
He really quoted the itsy bitsy spider.
yeah,
That's hilarious.
and then followed it up with "I got spiders crawling out your mouth." I don't even.
What does that even
Yeah,
mean?
that sounds questionable. Um, but to return to kind of other parts of the album here, kind of what you were saying with how you feel about Self Love by Coil Ray was how Hummingbird came across to me, the James Blake track.
Yeah.
Because I listened to that before I saw the movie. I listened to the whole album. And then I saw the movie the next day. And when I heard Hummingbird, I was like, I totally have a ton of respect for James Blake because I think he's such a unique, cool vocalist that is not the norm that we hear vocally
Right.
in pop music. However, he's not my cup of tea all the time. But hearing that in the movie, I was like, oh, this is such
Yeah.
a beautiful song. And I find myself listening to it very frequently
Yeah.
now. Um, but like I said, a lot of those moments that I feel like I grew to like the song came from the context of the movie. Like seeing it fit into the scenario makes a big difference in
Absolutely.
terms of context. And um I one of the big things that was evident to me listening to it, aside from kind of the highs and lows, was just that there were very clear soundtrack songs
Mhm.
and very clear songs that were maybe inspired by the movie in terms of their
Right.
content. I don't know. How did you feel like that was a thing, or was that just me?
There was definitely a difference in
And that's not to say there wasn't like crossover where there's a song like, oh,
right.
this could fit in the movie, or like this didn't necessarily sound like it fit the movie, but it fit the sequence in the movie that it was in.
Right. Um, I don't know because there's definitely a different feel in the album. Not saying like song wise, but definitely in like what you're saying, where it's a movie song or a you heard this wherever, like on the radio song,
Right.
like
It's
what
it's
wherever.
inspired by Spider-Man,
Right.
maybe.
Um, it didn't like throw me off or anything.
Yeah, no, I think they sound really good
Yeah,
together. It just was like it felt clear that
yeah,
they were like intended for different purposes, maybe.
Right. Yeah, and then kind of just collaborated
Right,
and
right.
put together.
I feel like on a lot of these soundtrack albums, they put music from and inspired by the film.
Mhm.
And I guess my point with it is that it's clear that which songs are from the film versus inspired by the film.
Agreed.
And there's a lot of great songs on both sides of that. It was just interesting to me listening. Whereas, like, when I go through a Fast and Furious soundtrack, I feel like any song in here could be in this movie, or like, you know, that's maybe the big one, but like a Transformers movie, like, oh, any one of these Linkin Park songs could be at the end of this movie. But with this one, it felt like it was very clear which songs were from the movie and inspired by the movie. And there's nothing like good or bad about that per se. It was just like an interesting thing that I noticed as I was listening to it.
Yeah, there's definitely a feel that I mean, probably not everyone, but I agree. I felt the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. I mean, do you have anything else about the soundtrack? I shared all my thoughts last week, but
yeah, just that self-love song is the one that really stuck out to me.
Yeah.
So I saw the movie twice.
Did you really?
I've already seen it twice.
Okay.
But yeah, so I watched the movie, and then I didn't pay attention to like the actual music or nothing. And I didn't really pay attention the second time either. But I watched the movie, listened to the album, really loved Self-Love, watched the movie again, and loved Self-Love even more. Because I was like, oh man, this is so good.
Interesting. Yeah. Man, well, I guess as we transition from the soundtrack, there's only one thing to say. Dude, that song shows up in my dreams. I'll be in my dreams just like wandering the city at night, and it'll be raining, and then all of a sudden it's like, and I'm like, oh no, he's on to me.
Oh my god.
Dude, this is a
oh my.
I don't want to like overhype this review because I don't want it to sound like I don't even know how to start talking about it, because it's hard to say like my level of liking it without making it sound way overhyped or like underhyping it.
I gotta remember we're on a podcast. I can't just stay quiet forever.
Yeah.
So James already said it was overhyped for him.
Interesting.
I think he's an idiot.
That's okay. Just it. Let's before we jump spoiler into this.
Yeah.
What do you give it out of 10?
So me, Jonah, and then we have a buddy. His name is Davin, that we've done Spider-Man reviews.
Sure. Yeah.
And so we did the review, and me and Jonah have a scale.
A system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To where we add up the numbers and then divide it by 10, and that's what it gets. So mine came out to a 9.6. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can kind of read the
list off. Give us a little bit of an explanation there, because when I saw this like the day after it came out. I think I saw it on Friday,
right,
or maybe Saturday when it came out on a Friday. And I looked up right after what it was rated, just public perception, and it did really well on Rotten Tomatoes and very well on IMDb. And it said number 19 on IMDb's all-time best movies.
Yeah.
Which is fan rated, so like it means just like how much the fans liked it generally. But I thought that was interesting that it was that high. But it sounds like you agree.
Want to know something crazy?
Yeah.
I looked it up the other day. It's at 12 now.
Is it really?
It's at 12.
Is it? I'm gonna look it up right now.
Yeah, on IMDb. I made sure, because I forgot what you told me what it was, but yeah, it's number 12 now. Unless I looked at the wrong thing. So
let's see. Dude, it's at 11 right now.
So it moved up a little bit.
It is tied with its star rating for The Dark Knight, which is the highest rated superhero movie ever, and the 4th best rated movie of all time.
Yeah, that's nuts.
That's crazy.
So these are kind of the
for context though, there's, I think it said 11,000 reviews so far for this movie. Mm-hmm. Let me double check because I don't want to say that wrong.
Right.
100,000 reviews.
Gotcha.
Okay, way more than 11,000.
Yes.
But The Dark Knight has over 2 million. So
right.
there's that. But
yeah. But that's still crazy. Like even with 100,000 views, like
oh yeah,
that's nuts.
it's not like 10 people gave it
Yeah.
9 out of 10.
Right.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So these are the subjects.
Okay.
And I'll say this first. I don't it's very, very hard to give something a 10, whether it's music or movie.
Yeah.
I'm very picky about it.
Yeah. And if you're giving something a 10, you're saying it's perfect.
Right.
And that's near impossible.
Right.
Yeah.
I gave a lot of things a 10 in this. Like a lot. And that's for me. I know other people will be able to debate why they believe it's different,
Sure.
whatever. You being included, I feel like you would debate quite a few of these things.
Yeah.
So the subjects being, we start out with writing, so that includes the plot, dialogue, and comedy. Then we get into our characters. We do the main protagonist, we do the main antagonist, and then we go through side characters. So in this movie, we have side characters with Gwen, Spider-Man 2099, Spider-Woman, Spider-Man India, Spider-Punk, Peter Parker, and Scarlet Spider. So we had 7 side characters into this one. Then we go into visuals, being CGI/animation, character design / costume, and action. Last one we got is music/scoring. So I gave, let's see if I can remember. I gave all of writing a 10. I thought the plot was great. I thought it was also goofy within itself, because you look at the Spot, and he had his own like little backstory / plot thing going on, which I found hilarious that it's a bagel. But
Butterfly effect.
literally. I thought the plot was great. I thought it wasn't too slow. I think the pace was where it needed to be to give you a good story. The dialogue, and I'll add comedy into there too, was great, because I feel like it didn't overuse comedy. And there's a lot of Spider-Man, and they're all supposed to be funny.
Yeah.
So to give that, but not too much of that and not too little, but just the right amount, is a hard thing to do if you're going to use at least over 7 Spider-Man.
Right.
So I don't know. I just thought the entire story, all of the writing was very well put together. Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. You look at, I gave Miles a 10. I'll tell you the things I didn't give a 10.
Okay.
There's only 2 things I didn't give a 10.
Yeah, there we go.
That'll be a lot easier. I didn't give Scarlet Spider a 10. I gave him a 9, just because he was whining a little bit too much, and it just annoyed me a little bit.
Yeah.
So
that's all right.
But still a great score. I thought he was cool. I liked his design and everything.
Yeah.
And then I gave music a 7, because I didn't listen to the album at the time. This was like just going into it, no music or nothing. So I just gave it a 7 just because. I'd leave it there.
Yeah.
I'll keep it a 7.
Yeah. I think that's what I gave it last week, if I remember right.
It was very fitting within the movie. We kind of just talked about that.
Right.
But everything, like, I found very little flaw to it in my eyes. And even seeing it a second time, I didn't find too much flaw, in my opinion. I think the whole Spider Illuminati was dope. And I like that certain characters stayed loyal, that being like Spider-Woman being the main one, how she kind of told Gwen, like, no, I told you, if you screw up, like, I can't do anything about it. I've been doing this for a while. I'm sticking here. So to see, like, on her side, it's betrayal. On the other side, it's like, no, this is my job.
Yeah.
I told you what was going to happen. So to see things like that, I think this was the greatest interpretation of the multiverse that we've seen so far. The best thing about this movie, in my opinion, is the animation. And I have so much respect, and I give so much credit to them for making this a fantastic movie. There are so many different art styles colliding with each other that just work so well. Like one of the beginning fights is the Vulture being made out of paper, and it's in this like watercolor art style world, but it looks right. And so yeah.
So I mean, I still don't have the words to describe this movie. No, just kidding. I really, really enjoyed the movie a lot.
Yeah.
I would give this movie, don't shoot me, I'd give it a 7.5 out of 10. I would tie it with the movie Air. The only reason I'm giving it a 7.5 out of 10 is because that's what I gave Air. And to me, I can't decide which one of them is my favorite for movie of the year right now.
Right.
Granted, I've seen like 4, but it was very, very good. And I guess like I don't want to like criticize it because I loved it. Like it was a really, really good movie. Like I said, it's tied for my favorite movie of the year right now.
Yeah.
I would like to see each of them at least one more time, if not a couple more times, to kind of gain a full perspective on which I like the most. Like you said, I think the art style, the multiverse portrayal is for sure the coolest part about the movie to me. There was some very beautiful cinematic shots that were animated, which is astonishingly impressive when there's live action CGI movies that don't have that good of like scenery. There's real movies that don't have like just no CGI movies that don't have that good of scenery. I love the artistic styling of different universes, like you were saying. Even if we're talking individual characters like Vulture or Spider-Punk being, you know, kind of, I don't know, like his artistic design was his own thing, and every universe's, like even Lego Spider-Man making an appearance with its animation style.
You know, a 14-year-old did that.
Yeah, I read that. That's crazy.
That's nuts.
Yeah. I loved kind of the scenery change from like being in Gwen's universe as opposed to Miles' universe, even seeing like Spider-Man 2099's universe in the future. That was for sure one of the coolest parts. The writing also was astoundingly good, making it one of the best animated movie writings I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And we I really liked a lot of it, but it wasn't without like things that I felt like held it back from being perfect personally. Sorry, I'm just sending a text real quick. But to me, the only things that I felt like really held it back from being a perfect movie were the fact that it like, I don't know, I feel like we just got almost the exact same movie from No Way Home.
Oh, from No Way Home?
Yeah. And not like in the context that you're maybe thinking of right off the bat, but this whole idea of like collapsing the multiverse. And granted, there's a lot of Easter eggs that tie them together even.
Right.
But like, it just felt, and I think this Spider-Man movie did it better, but it felt weird that it came right after the No Way Home film.
Right.
And it even incorporated like, you know, spoilers, but it incorporated scenes from Tobey Maguire's universe and, you know, Andrew Garfield's, and talked about Tom Holland's universe.
Right.
And that's not to say there's anything wrong with that. It just felt like a little bit of an unoriginal storyline. And that kind of lowered just my intrigue in the movie and like kind of understanding that. And even with it leaving off on such a cliffhanger, I was like, okay, but I kind of already know how it's going to end. Like, he's going to find a way to make the multiverse work, but he's going to have to make some massive sacrifices to do it. That was like really the only snag that kept me from saying like it was a great movie, because the character writing is very good. The character development's very good. Even Miles' growth from the last movie to this movie, or Gwen Stacy's growth. There was a lot of characters that we didn't see a whole lot of that were in the first movie in this one. Introduction of new characters was great. Spider-Man 2099 was a fantastic antagonist in it. The Spot was a great antagonist in it. But it just, like, that was like really the only snag, is I was like, I feel like I've just seen this movie, and maybe it'll tie together and that will like resolve my conflict with it. But it wasn't even really a critique. It was just like the fact that it felt like it lacked originality in that context made me think that it's not like a perfect movie, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. The reason why I disagree is because this Spider Miles Morales' story started first with the whole multiverse.
True.
So for me, going into that thought process, it would be No Way Home is copying the
Yeah,
Spider Verse,
that's fair.
just because we already saw it into the Spider Verse. Like
Right.
that was the first one kind of
Right.
talking about it. Um, but I could like I definitely understand the whole originality thing. And you're right, it does kind of lead to speculation on things that we already can kind of predict to happen.
Yeah.
And also things to not be predicted to happen. Like I don't think that dad's gonna die. It's too easy. Like spoilers once again. Like whatever. Where was that? Like
Yeah.
I don't think the dad will end up dying.
Yeah.
Um, I so me personally, I think Peter will die because that's like his
Which one?
mentor. Oh, so the
The
one that trained him.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, which is sad because he has a kid now.
Hmm.
But I think it'll be Peter just because I feel like the dad is too easy to kill off at this point.
Hmm.
The mom, I guarantee you, if the mom dies, there will be riots, and I will be one of those.
Yeah,
um, it's not gonna be Gwen.
sure.
It can't be Gwen.
Y-
Well, look, bro, if this is gonna be terrible, but if they kill off Gwen, I want her to die in the same way that Gwen died in Amazing Spider-Man, because that would just be tragic.
Yeah, that would be devastating to have to relive that. Yeah, I mean, I totally think you're right with the fact that Into the Spider-Verse did it first. And I guess maybe that's my overall just lack of appreciation for the storyline, maybe, is that it feels like we just keep getting the same thing out of Spider-Man.
Yeah,
And like I said, it's hard for me to like be critical with this because I really liked it and I don't mind the storyline at
yeah,
all. It was just a matter of intrigue, and the fact that I feel like I've seen this two Spider-Man movies in a row
right.
made it like a little bit less engaging, like that I was like, oh my gosh, this is so wild and out there
Right.
or whatever. But it was definitely a great continuation of where we left off.
Yeah,
It was definitely very well done. I think it was, like you said, the best portrayal of a multiverse movie.
absolutely.
I think it was like, if people get voter fatigue when it comes to like voting for, sports stars, MVPs or whatever,
Right.
I guess I would say viewer fatigue from the multiverse. Like
Yeah.
I feel like that's everything that I'm
Yeah, and
getting from
that's
superheroes
valid.
right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Because
I
you
think
have
that's
that.
exactly what I'm going to get from the Flash in 2 weeks when it comes out.
Right. Yeah, because I mean, you have it with Into the Spider Verse. You have it in Across the Spider Verse. No Way Home, Loki, Doctor Strange, Multiverse of
WandaVision.
Madness, WandaVision.
Yeah.
You're probably right. It probably will be in the Flash.
Yeah.
It does suck because that's what will bring in so much money right now because it's such a vast idea.
Right.
But I do miss Spider-Man. This isn't Spider-Man that we've grown to like
Right.
know and love.
It's a very interesting Spider-Man storyline,
Right.
but it's not what we've
It's
grown to expect
it's not Spider-Man
cinematically.
about to go face off against Venom. It's not Doc Ock. It's not Rhino that was
Right.
speculated and like kind of teased at the end of Amazing Spider-Man 2. It's dimensional beings and like
Yeah.
all of that. So that is one thing that I'm kind of sad about is I don't know when we'll ever get a normal Spider-Man now because even if you were to look at Tom Holland's fourth one, who's to say that another big hero is not going to come in?
Right.
Like I've already heard rumors of, or ideas about how it would be cool. I think this one would be cool, but still sad is have like the Human Torch be his roommate, like, and that's kind of his leeway into like the Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
There's that comic line, or it. I mean, Harry Osborn would be fine. That like seems pretty normal.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like,
Who
are we going to get a normal Spider-Man movie?
Yeah. And honestly, I would prefer if like other movies stop doing it so that I could enjoy this Spider-Verse storyline, because I think this has been the best portrayal of it between No Way Home, which I really liked,
Right.
and WandaVision, Doctor Strange, and all those other ones that we've talked about. I think this has portrayed it the best, and I would enjoy this one the best. And I wish those other movies didn't fatigue me from enjoying it so much.
Right.
But like you said, I mean, I definitely want to see it again to kind of solidify an opinion on whether I think it's better than what I originally thought or
Right.
where I initially put it. Because I don't foresee myself disliking it more,
Yeah.
not because I disliked it, but just because I think I liked it enough to the point where I don't think I misjudged it that
Right.
poorly.
Yeah. To me, it felt like a shorter movie the second time.
Did it really?
Yeah, like the first, like, obviously, because I don't know what's gonna happen, so I don't know timing or anything like that.
Yeah.
And I didn't like going into the movie. I didn't look at the runtime or anything like that, so I didn't know.
It's hefty for
Yeah,
a cartoon.
right. But the second time, because I knew where everything was placed,
Mm,
it felt a lot quicker.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, the other thing that I really liked in it was the balance of kind of comedy, and I would even include cameos in that,
Mhm.
with originality and intrigue. Because, like you said, the Spot is a villain that I'm not mega familiar with. I don't
Right.
really know how much he's been in comic books, or
Right.
like I don't know that I've ever read a comic book with him in it, is what I what I'm trying to get at. But um he was a super cool character to bring in, who had his own moments of great comedy and great, wit, as opposed to like some moments where it was like some serious
Right.
tones of the movie. Even Spider-Man 2099, with all of his seriousness,
Yeah.
came with some comedic relief moments, while characters like Miles came with some great serious moments,
Yeah.
or Spider-Punk, who kind of was a little bit of an out there character,
Mhm.
had his serious or very helpful moments in the movie.
Right.
And so I really liked that aspect, how they kind of balanced everything. The script writing and dialogue was definitely one of the best dialogues that I've ever seen in an animated movie,
Right.
to the point where it was so good that I wasn't thinking about its ranking among animated movies.
Mhm.
I was just thinking of its ranking among the great scripts of movies
Yeah.
in terms of dialogue that I've heard in general.
Right. Yeah. And so on top of that, I loved the new characters that they brought in. Being
Yeah.
so for me, the big ones are Spider Punk and Spider Man India. I found very very enjoyable because,
Yeah.
side note, I love that they added canon being like a legitimate thing. Like this is what makes us, and they call it like it being canon, like
Yeah.
it's legit. I thought that was kind of funny, but
Yeah.
um,
And it sparked like a revolution on social media now. I don't know if you've
oh
seen that.
really?
Yeah. People are like watching my younger brother go through his Nike highlighter clothes phase. I can't interfere because it's a canon event for men.
That's that's great.
So everybody's like, we're gonna replace the phrase "it be like that" with "it's a canon event."
I'm for that. I like that. Right? um, but the reason why I think Spider-Man India was so cool was because his canon event didn't happen.
Mm,
So we get a whole new look at Spider-Man in just his character, because he is just enjoying it and
right.
he's good at it. Like you see that in all the Spider-Man. Like none of them are really trash at it. They like, figure it out. Like it takes a sec. Once they figure it out, they're pretty dang good at it.
Right.
Every single one of them. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter who. And so he's at that stage and will probably stay at that stage until somebody he loves does end up dying, because that'll probably happen in his storyline. Who knows?
Sure.
Um, but I thought he was a super cool, lighthearted character in this.
Mm,
Obviously, like they're all lighthearted, but I feel like he had it the most because of those events that didn't happen.
right.
Um, and I thought him having his yo-yo be like a main factor to his web slinging was the
Right.
coolest little unique feature ever.
Yeah,
Like
it was a cool incorporation for sure.
there was a part where he like threw a web around him with the yo-yo or something and like shot himself like a bow and arrow. Super cool.
Yeah.
Like I don't know who like is thinking up with these things, but good job, because that was super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're right, Spider Punk with him being kind of just out there is hilarious.
Yeah.
he's out of pocket.
I had no idea that that was Daniel I don't know how to say his name. Kaluuya from Nope and from Get Out. The that actor.
Oh,
He's
is
in
he the
Black.
main guy in
Yeah.
Nope?
Yeah, and he's Black Panther's friend in the first Black Panther movie.
Those are all the
Yeah.
same guy.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't seen Get Out.
Yeah, those are the same guy.
Wow,
Anyways, he's Spider-Punk. I
that's
didn't
crazy.
Yeah.
I like him a lot.
Yeah, he portrays the character astonishingly well.
Yeah,
Um
that's crazy.
yeah, he was a character that I really found myself liking, whereas when he was introduced, I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to fully appreciate this interpretation of him. He comes across super well, but then there's all these really cool cameos aside from just a really good plot that were like, oh, just warmed the heart maybe of a lot of Spider-Man fans, from Insomniac's video game Spider-Man appearing, Metro Boomin voices like the Spider-Man character that's like, oh, my bad, guys, there was somewhere to run. Like the whole therapy scene where Spider-Man's giving therapy to the other Spider-Man. Let me guess.
Your uncle died.
Your uncle died. And then the scene kind of proceeds, and like there was so many of those, like Lego Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire, references to Tom Holland,
Donald Glover,
right?
The PlayStation suit showed up.
Yeah. And like Venom's universe being in it. There was so many cool aspects like that just kind of warmed the heart. Or like the little meme Spoderman guy from Microsoft Paint. Like that was fantastic. Just incorporating that's so cool.
On Instagram the other day, I was like, there's no way they did it. And then I started seeing it more. I was like, they did it. That's crazy.
Yeah, it was like just including things like that was for me, because some movies rely way too heavily on that with like, oh, we're going to bring back characters that people like. And they kind of use that as an excuse to not make a good plot. But there's a perfect balance of really good writing and incorporating that stuff in a level where it could be appreciated without it being overwhelming.
Right.
Like if you didn't know Insomniac Spider-Man, like the PlayStation one was in there, you may have missed it.
Right.
Or like, like you said, knowing the Microsoft Paint thing, you wouldn't notice that unless you kind of were aware that it was going to be in there.
Right.
And so incorporating those things in those capacities made the movie really interesting and really enjoyable to watch. I'm trying to think like what else I said. I also hesitated to put it as the best Spider-Man portrayal ever, just because of, like you said, it's not the traditional Spider-Man movie that I've come to know and appreciate.
Right.
If you want to talk about how it portrayed like the comic book universe of Spider-Man, I would definitely say it's the best. Like it's a great Spider-Man movie. Like if you're just talking about action sequences, the web slinging, the character like dialogue, and his temperament was 1,000% where it was supposed to be. But it wasn't like a Spider-Man movie where we got to know a specific character's backstory and origin and followed him through a traditional storyline of his universe. Whereas I feel like it covered all of the bases of what Spider-Man is in a little bit of a different setting. And so I don't know, like I said, I love the movie. I just hesitated to rank it so high because of a couple of those little things.
Thinking about it, like I feel like our interpretation of Spider-Man will forever be gone because of, one, how many we have, and two, with how many storylines we have. Because you're going to get a kid in 15 years when we have Tom Holland's second trilogy done, Miles Morales' trilogy done, and who knows, a bunch of other crossovers, whatever.
Right.
Whatever Spider-Man they watch first.
Yeah, that's their one.
Yeah, is going to be their interpretation of Spider-Man, how he should be. So let's say you start with Miles Morales and you just get the basis of what's supposed to happen in Spider-Man's. And they go, oh, okay, well, that's how it, like, let me go find the Spider-Man that's going through it. And then you go to like Toby, they're going to think it's weird. Not even just because of the time that it was filmed or like whatever.
Yeah, but it's just not what they're expecting going into it.
And so that makes it harder for me to think about these movies. Because me
Right.
personally, I think Miles, and it's even harder because he's not live action, but I think this is the best interpretation of Spider-Man. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's a lot easier to make him the best Spider-Man because he's animated.
Yeah.
But I think he does everything that Spider-Man needs to do within things we see in like comics. He is
Yeah.
Spider-Man. Now, that might be unfair to any of the other live action actors.
Right.
But yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
it. It's just unfair.
Yeah. And that's the truthfully, like, I will apologize to the listeners right now for how I've come across because my mind is so jumbled with trying to review this movie without sounding like I hated it or loved it more than I did. Because, like I said, I think the 7.5 for me is apt for how I feel right now. But I think, like you're saying, it's hard to critique it by saying, I didn't love this interpretation of Spider-Man because of my preconceived notions of what I expect Spider-Man to be,
Right.
because of what I've grown up watching. But like for me, and strictly just talking movies, because I could dive into the TV shows that I watched growing up. Like if you're talking old 90s and early 2000s version or Spectacular or
Right.
Ultimate, like those are a whole other conversation that I would have to think about. But if I'm just talking movie Spider-Mans, Miles Morales is a fantastic portrayal of everything that I want Spider-Man to be in a movie, but he doesn't, like, I guess he kind of fights the Prowler. That's the main focus of the first movie, but it's really not like the and Kingpin, I guess. But the main focus of the movie is multiversal incorporations of like introducing this kind of world a little bit. And it's like, and then even in this one, yeah, he fights well, I guess he doesn't even fight the Vulture, right? Those are the other Spider-Mans.
He just fights the Spot.
Yeah, he just fights the Spot, who's a character I'm not super familiar with, but that's fine. But really, he fights the Spot for like 10 minutes in the movie, and then the rest of it is about Spider-Man 2099 and the multiverse or the Spider-Verse. But he has yet to like have a backstory with like a Green Goblin, or I guess he has kind of Doc Ock, but like again, these characters are momentary characters throughout the movie, whereas he doesn't have a backstory with any kind of individual villain that culminates to, you know, a finale, which is the Spider-Man that I'm accustomed to from comic books, but also movies and television. And it's very cool to see this type of movie because they're not continuing to use this quote unquote formula of superhero movies, which, like what I just described before that, is everything that we get from every superhero movie. So it is very, very cool to see this be a different story.
Yeah.
But it makes it hard for me to say like, oh, this is the best interpretation of Spider-Man, or this is the best Spider-Man movie I've seen, or the best superhero movie I've seen. And it's really just because like I don't know how I can wrap my head around it yet.
Right.
And it's resonated with me for like 2 weeks. So like I don't know when it ever will. I think I just need to watch it a few more times.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I loved it. It was probably, it is my favorite movie of the year, tied with Air right now. And if I see it 2 or 3 more times, it may be a different story that I like one or the other better. But that, like, it is number one in my ranking right now.
Yeah.
So I really like the movie. However, it's not like my favorite movie. I don't know if I'd put it in my top 10 movies ever, just because I think there's so much that I want to re-explore in viewing the movie and kind of my perception of how Spider-Man's portrayed. But like, I keep having this like maybe on my shoulder instead of an angel and a demon. It's like Dad, Peter Parker, and Spider-Man 2099 that are arguing in my ear. Like, it's a great movie, but it's not that good. But it's great, but it's not the best movie. But it's so like the perfect portrayal. But there's not what you're used to. So I feel like I'm schizophrenic in this episode because I literally keep like jumping back and forth in my own head of how I want to review it. And I just can't formulate into words.
Right.
So I'm going to stand firm with 7.5 because it's very good, but I do have my criticisms.
Yeah. And that's fair. Like, so 2 things. With my grading system is very different than a lot of people.
Sure.
Because to me, nothing is perfect. You can't give anything actually perfect. Like, it just doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So a 10 to me is real close.
Yeah.
So that was just kind of resonating in my mind. I don't think this movie is perfect in any sense. It does have it's little things, and it'll always change due to who views it and how you view it. Because like Jonah didn't have the great theater experience, so he didn't
Mm,
get to enjoy the movie as much, but still enjoy. Anyway,
sure.
so you get a lot of other factors. But one thing that I loved about this movie, and we talked about it a little bit when reviewing Guardians 3
Yeah.
with um moments that kind of hit you and
Yeah.
kind of like being relatable. If I'm talking the most relatable, this has got to be one that I relate with than any other Spider-Man movie that's like portrayed it, because everybody is ganging up on Miles, and you know that moment in like Creed where you're like, wow, like you're just inspired, like
Yeah.
I can go do anything right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
I felt that way when Miles was on the train and 2099 has him like pinned up on the train. He's like, nah, I'm gonna do it my way.
Yeah.
Like, oh, even just saying it, just oh. um, I love that because I feel like a lot of people, doesn't matter who you are, get told, no, you can't do that. You can't do this. You have to
Yeah.
go to college after high school. You
Yeah.
have to get a good job. You have
This is
no,
your box. Stay there.
right. Like, no, I want, especially like being like a music artist. Like, I don't want a normal job. Like,
Sure.
college isn't for me. I learned that.
Yeah.
All these different things. So I don't know. I just connected so deep with this one, with everybody saying like, no, you're not even supposed to be here. You can't be this.
Yeah.
When it's like, bro, I've just been doing it for like the last year and a half. What do you mean I can't do this and I'm not supposed to be? Like,
Yeah.
what makes you so much better than me that I can't be Spider-Man like you guys? Like,
Right.
I've done it just as well as you guys, and like
Yeah.
whatever. So I liked how many relatable moments there were, even like talking to his parents. I guarantee we've all had that moment where it's like we are hiding something from our parents and like we want to tell them, but we don't know how they're going to react. So it's like, I got to keep it to myself. Like,
So
I don't want to, but I have to.
I actually saw this movie with my family, and my mom and dad they've seen like they see all these movies,
Yeah.
just because they have three boys, so they
Right.
see all these kinds of movies, and they liked the first one, but they didn't love it.
Mhm.
Like it wasn't necessarily their cup of tea, just between X, Y, and Z or whatever. And they loved this movie a lot more than
That's super cool.
the last one. And the reasoning they said is they were like, as a parent, it was the most realistic conversations between the kids, but also between the parents
Yeah.
in like any movie they'd seen.
Yeah.
And they're like, it was really cool to see that writing in like an animated Spider-Man movie,
Yeah.
which is not where you'd necessarily expect it.
Right.
And so there for sure is those like awe-inspiring moments where you resonate with the character for sure. That's
Yeah.
that's a super relatable and universal message. And we all do have like our moments where we're going through something personally, but don't necessarily feel like we can talk about it with our parents or with, everybody per se.
Right.
And I do really like that aspect of kind of taking control of your own life and doing your own thing when you know what the right thing is. And it'll be interesting to see how that plays out in the next movie because, like you're saying, that happens on the train right towards the end of the film where he comes to that, and then universe hops to another spot, which introduces him to the universe where Miles was supposed to be Spider-Man and ended up being the Prowler or whatever. And so that has its own intriguing lead into the next film that I'm really excited to see. I would definitely say that I liked this movie a lot more than the first one.
Me too.
I think it blew it out of the water.
Absolutely.
And I liked the first one a lot.
Yeah.
It definitely was one of the best movies that I've seen, especially recently. Like in the last 2 years, I'd for sure put it in my top three, probably in the past 2 or 3 years combined. Yeah. So I mean, that's where it sits with me right now.
So knowing you, I'm assuming you at some point before it actually happened, you knew Miles was going to be the Prowler, because I know that you're very good at predicting the the next step of a movie.
Yeah, so I mean, I will say I don't think I caught all the clues that I've been seeing like as spoilers on the internet now. Like, oh,
Right.
Miles' spider sense was
Yeah.
different colors. And like I definitely didn't catch that when I watched the first movie or
Right.
like leading into that. I think I definitely kind of gathered it seems pretty easy to gather at some point that like when he realizes he's not in his own universe and Miles is there and the tone of the film really easily leads you to the fact that something is not going to be right with Miles in this universe because he's supposed to be living kind of this he's supposed to be living this kind of happier life that
Right.
our Miles that we know is living, but the tone of the universe makes it very clear that that's not what's happening. And his mom doesn't know who Spider-Man is in that universe.
Yeah.
And so I think it very quickly led me to something's not going to be right with Miles, and there's probably going to be a confrontation with himself. I don't know that I necessarily gathered that he would be the Prowler
Right.
up until I saw him as the Prowler,
Yeah.
but it definitely was kind of like clear that he would be not right, if
Right.
that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Because I didn't I didn't guess he was Prowler until Aaron said, I'm not like I'm
Yeah,
not the
yeah, yeah.
Prowler.
Right. That's
Yeah.
kind of when it came
Yeah.
up
How do you feel about that? Because I think it's dope.
of him being the Prowler.
Yeah, and then that little like right before a boxing fight little press conference thing, where they're like face to face. The face
Yeah, the
offs.
face off.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so that was a very cool incorporation. I don't know if you caught this, but one of the things that I've seen floating around was a scene from the first one where Peter Parker's tied up very similarly and says to him, like, don't watch the like here's a tip, don't watch the guy's mouth, watch his hands, and then he like takes his hands out and the ropes fall off.
Oh shoot, I do remember that.
In Miles that we know from, Miles who's Spider-Man, it's hard to keep these guys straight because they have the same name and they're the same person. But the Miles from the main universe that we know is very like talkative and has a lot of wit and humor.
Right.
And so for me, it's very clear that that's where that's going to go.
Yeah.
And that's how he's going to end up getting out of it. How he ends up getting out of the full situation is another story, like how he resolves it. But yeah, I do think that was a really cool incorporation to kind of bring you face to face with not a problem that you've created, but like he feels like, oh, I'm not causing any problems. I'm just living my life. And then getting to the point where he sees like, oh, this is what my life would have been like, but what has happened because my life ended up like this.
Right.
Which I think is kind of cool. I don't know that there was a whole lot of that in the other multiverse movies that we've seen. Like the Doctor Strange movie didn't really explore that a whole lot. Yeah. I don't think. Same with No Way Home, but it was really cool to kind of see him brought face to face with himself and how his life could end up.
Right.
So I did like that.
That makes me excited for the next one.
Yeah.
And the little team up that Gwen got together with like the newer people and then the old team up. I don't like Penny though. She's not Spider-Man. The robot is, if anything. That's stupid.
Yeah, but
that's a different conversation.
Does that make there was the Spider-Man that was riding a horse that was also Spider-Man. Does that make the horse Spider-Man or the
Yes, cowboy? The horse is Spider-Man.
Okay, so the cowboy Spider-Man is just
I don't know about
jockey.
Yeah, I don't know about the actual human because the webs were coming out of the horse.
Yeah,
that was weird. I didn't like that it came out of the bottom of its hooves. I didn't like that at all.
It does seem odd.
The cat is stupid. The cat doesn't count. Same with the little chimpanzee. No. Okay. The T-Rex? Yeah, the T-Rex is Spider-Man.
You're with it.
Yeah, he shot a web.
Yeah. Definitely some interesting Spider-Mans in the film, to say the least. But I am really excited to see where they go. I, for some reason in my mind, had that there would be a resolution at the end of the film, and maybe it's because I felt like there was one at the end of the first one.
Yeah.
So I was a little surprised that it ended with such a non-resolution.
So much tension too.
Yeah, such tension. Like, not even like a lull. Like at the end of Infinity War, everybody dies, but like that's closure at that point. Like, obviously, there has to be more, and there's going to be another part because it can't end like that, so to speak.
Right.
But it literally felt like this movie just ended in the middle of the movie,
Right.
which
Like
I
in the
kind of
biggest
like as
part
a
was
two
fine.
part movie.
Yeah.
But it makes me bummed that I have to wait like 8 months to see the rest of it.
So my first reaction, because the moment that I saw Gwen, it was either when she got like the mentor Peter, or it was either when they were on the rooftop, which I want to say I knew that it was about to end when she went to go get Peter, and in my head I'm just like, no, no, it's not over yet. Like
You're watching the time. You're like,
like
I've been in here for a couple hours.
like I'm not ready. Like keep it going.
Yeah.
And it ends, and I'm pissed.
Yeah.
I was very upset for about 3 minutes. Then I let it sit with me for a sec.
And you're like,
I sat in my anger.
you realize how good of a movie
I
it
was
is.
just like so happy
Yeah.
because one of my problems with superhero movies lately is they rush the plot and they rush the ending.
Yeah.
And then it feels like that was pointless.
Yeah.
And yeah, we have to wait for however long now. But whatever happened to the feeling of I can't wait to go see that movie, like
to see how it
Infinity
ends.
War to Endgame. Like,
yeah.
I remember seeing that
Definitely.
and just being like, ain't no way, like just stoked.
Yeah.
And so
And even in those movies, there's post-credit scenes where it's like, oh, like that's gonna keep me going until then. This one, it just ends.
Yeah, it just all that it tells you is because I waited for the first one, and all it says is Miles Morales will return in, and then that's supposed to be the first time you know about Beyond the Spider-Verse.
Right.
But that's it. There's literally no other post-credit scene. And so I kind of just allowed myself to be happy about it and get excited for the next film, because they did such a beautiful job with it. They ended it how it honestly should have been ended if you are going to do 2 parts.
Right.
So it kind of just, for me, added on to the greatness of it for just leaving it at a spot where we can be wondering, well, what's next? Like,
yeah,
how is this going to happen? We didn't even get to the main fight of him versus the Spot. Like,
that's or really him versus Spider-Man 2099. Like, in every superhero movie, you kind of have like the mid-fight scene, and then you have kind of the closure final battle. We just really got like 2 middle of the movie fight scenes.
Yeah. So I don't know. It makes me excited.
Yeah.
But
my real question and grievance with all of these Spider-Man movies, to be honest with you, is these canon events where they get bit by a spider, right?
Yeah.
And they gain all these powers and everything. Super cool. Like, it's a canon event. It has to happen, right? So how come when I get bit by a spider, all that happens is anaphylaxis? Explain that one to me. I thought I was like onto something. I wake up and there's a spider bite on me a few months ago, and all that happened was my face swelled up. So I'm disappointed in that. Spider-Man 2099, I expected more. Thought you'd be watching out, fix the universal catastrophic events, but
I knew what you were about to say was going to be absolutely stupid. I didn't know what it was going to be, but I knew once you said, just have one more question, I knew it was going to be stupid. But I always applaud with how well you're able to say such stupidity with such a straight face.
It's not stupid. It's genuine. I'm upset.
So well.
Oh my goodness.
That's common.
Yeah. You have anything else about the movie you want to talk about?
Oh.
No. Again, the Peter Parker and the Spider-Man 2099 on my shoulders are just shouting back and forth. So
they're both mad at you.
Yeah. Well, it's not that they're both mad. They're both just trying to convince me how I feel about this movie. And I apologize to our listeners that I've come across so scatterbrained, because I really did like the movie a lot, but I also
have your critiques.
Yeah. But I mean, that's just any movie. But yeah. I really did enjoy it a lot. I want to see it a couple more times, and I'm sure towards the end of the year when we get into our final movie rankings, I know for sure that this is going to be in that conversation for me, whether or not films like Oppenheimer and The Flash and The
And
Creator or
Barbie.
whatever else may hypothetically leapfrog this film. I know for sure this movie is going to be in that conversation. So maybe by December I'll have had my mind made up on how I feel about this one. But I did like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you ready to see Barbie next?
That's a special announcement for you guys. Jaden and I agreed to a very special episode that we're not really excited about, but we kind of are a little bit in theory of what the episode will be. We're not excited for the experience.
No.
We are going to see the movie Barbie so that you don't have to. And we're going to give you our full review of Ryan Gosling and Margot Robbie's Barbie film here in a few weeks when it comes out.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for that.
I dread that day.
Yeah.
Do we see Barbie first or do we see Oppenheimer first?
It depends on if I'm going to see Oppenheimer, how quickly after it comes out. I'll only see Barbie on a $5 Tuesday because I don't want to pay full price for that ticket.
You're right.
So if that happens to come before I see Oppenheimer, then I guess we'll see that one first. But yeah, it's I'm going to do my best to go into it with an open mind so I can give a genuine review.
Same.
However, it's going to be very hard to, well, in theory, it really shouldn't be that hard to beat my expectations.
Yeah.
Is beat my expectations the right way to say that?
Yeah, because your expectations
to surpass my expectations. Yeah. Maybe I don't know how to speak English anymore. Yeah. So that stay tuned for that. Got anything else you want to give to the listeners?
No.
All right. Well, I think we're gonna wrap that up for this week's conversation about Into the Spider-Verse. Definitely a great film. I think we both loved it a lot. Check us out wherever you get your podcasts. Still coming soon to YouTube. I'm
gonna try it today.
We're gonna try it today.
Try to get those up today. We're gonna see if I'm able to.
All right, let's do it. New episodes coming to you every Monday. We try to get them out. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Check us out on YouTube Shorts, TikTok, Instagram. Is that the big three?
Yeah.
All right. And we'll see you next week.
Bye.
I genuinely tried to think